Today I'm doing a battery relocation. I'm going to attempt to take this battery and move it here, behind the passenger seat. Gonna see if it can be done and how much of a pain it'll be. Let's go. I'll be using this battery box, so I should probably check to make sure it fits back there first. It's tight, but it'll work. I'll need to drill some holes in the floorboard to secure it, and things look pretty clear here. I just gotta make sure not to get into that main support. I don't think it'd be a structural issue, but securing the nut would be impossible. First, I gotta get the battery out. As you can see with my setup, things are tight in here. I'll need to remove the intake first, then loosen the custom coolant reservoir setup, then I can wiggle the battery out. Intake out, coolant reservoir loose, and wiggle the battery out. There is a sensor at the bottom of this battery mount. I'm not sure what exactly that's for. Temperature maybe? I'll need to make sure I plug it back in when I'm done, even if the sensor is just hanging in the wind so I don't get a check engine light. Here are the positive and negative battery leads. I'm going to use this cable and what I can from this kit to basically just make extensions going back to the back seat area. I've got the cable laid out kind of where I want it to make sure it's long enough. I'll be routing it on the passenger side under the carpet, but I've got to remove some trim panels first before I get too far down the road, and try to see where a good point to pass the cable through the bulkhead would be. Instead of going through the front, I think I'll go through the side. In order to see if that's a good option, I need to remove the front fender liner. Maybe there's an access I can use. I'm not seeing much. There is a hole up at the top of the engine side, so maybe I can sneak the new cable through that, and then go through the side by the door. I was trying to avoid this, but I've got to take the fender off in order to get a better picture. No luck on the access, so I'll be drilling some holes about here. And I'll use this hole in the frame to run the wire from the engine to the side. Let me get this trim panel out of the way. Here, you can see my finger there? I'll be going through that to get down into the fender. Time for the first set of holes. I'm going to drill through the sheet metal here to get the cable from the engine compartment to the fender. I think it'll be easier to drill 2 holes, one for each cable, instead of trying to make one big hole or an oval and then trying to seal that. We'll see. Holes are drilled. Don't forget your grommets when passing in a cable through a piece of metal. Now I'll just fish the cable through the side and out of the new holes I just drilled. I'll be sure to pull enough length through so I have room to work. Using silicone really helps with this. Okay, cable is fed through. Let's go ahead and secure it along the top of the bulkhead here so it's out of the way of the turbo. This should be far enough away so the heat won't affect anything. Looking great so far. Now on to drilling the side holes for the cables to pass through. I'll center punch, then drill. I've got to go through 2 sets of sheet metal I found out, so this was a bit tricky, but I eventually got it. Okay, feed the cable into this newly formed pass-through. Again, don't forget your grommets. Lots of silicone again so it slides right through. Okay, let's secure these, and I'll put a couple pieces of rubber hose I cut up here between the cables and this sharp edge of the sheet metal, just for peace of mind that it won't rub through. That's done. Time to put the fender back on. Now for attaching the new cable to the battery terminals. There are 2 wires attached to each terminal, so I'll cut the terminal off and separate the wiring. At this point, I'll strip a little bit of insulation so I can attach new eyelets to all 3 cables for both positive and negative. Use whichever method of attachment you prefer. I'm doing solder slugs and stabbing the cable into the new eyelets. You can crimp them if that's your preference. Negatives are done. The positives were tricky because of their location deeper into the engine bay. This is what it looks like after I got everything secure. I used some bridge blocks to attach the new cable to the old harness. Now to put the coolant reservoir back in place. I'm going to snug it closer to the fender this time so I have more room in the future. Oh yeah, all that came out beautifully. On to the battery mounting. Here's how the battery will fit in the box with the securing strap over it. I need the strap to be a bit off-center towards the outside so I don't hit that support structure I mentioned earlier. I'll put the studs in place and pop them with a hammer to get an indentation on the plastic, then drill the holes. Next, using a paint pen, I'll mark the holes on the carpet to drill. I got pretty close to the support, but that's okay. I think we're still good. I'm going to go ahead here and run the cable back to the back seat area. Cutting a small hole in the carpet, I can feed it out here and have it looking pretty clean. Okay, the box is mounted. The studs are locking the box down. I can't forget the breather hose, so let's drill a slightly larger hole now and feed that through. Using a grommet and some gasket maker, I'll try to waterproof this as much as I can. Eventually I'll get an AGM battery, so I won't have to worry about this, but I don't have one yet, so better safe than sorry. Okay, battery is secured. I already drilled some holes on the side of the box and fed the new cable through. Now time to attach the new terminals. Looking pretty good. Let's get the lid attached. It uses these funky securing quarter-turn screw things, so this was mainly just to see how it worked. Alright, let's fire her up and see how we did. It started, and I'm getting 14 volts at the battery, so the alternator is still charging. Before I reinstall all the trim pieces, I'm going to use some hose cut up and put around the cables through this inside sheet metal. I ran out of grommets, so this should work as a substitute to keep chafing down to a minimum. Now I can put all the trim panels back on. Sweet, let's get this girl finished up. Gotta reinstall the air intake and secure the coolant line in its new position. Can't forget the amp power fuse either. I'll just move it back to the battery box as well. Why not? All in all, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Having the battery in that position with the new coolant tank I had to set up for the bigger turbo just really cramped the space under the hood. So this will really help out wrenching on her in the future. It took about a day, and you've got to be comfortable poking holes in the body, but it's not so bad really. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you did, and stay tuned for the installation of an even bigger turbo on this beast. As always, thanks for watching.